Yes. Here we go with another episode of the Format Podcast. Thank you for stopping in. Today, no special guest. This is going to be a short one. It's just going to be me talking just a very little bit of NCAA football. Got some interesting things going on there and kind of going to give a quick wrap to the season. And then we will move on and talk some NFL. Should be interesting. But before we get to all that, let's knock out what we know we got to do, okay? First and foremost, thank you for joining me today. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe button on the lower right corner of your screen and click that bell so you can know when new content is up and ready to be delivered so that you can get what we have for you. All right. Anytime a new episode goes up, that bell will let you know. All right. Next, if you are interested in the podcast audio format only, so you can kind of do whatever while you're listening to the pod, work out, walk around, you know, whatever it may be, cook, clean, whatever, while you got the melodious sounds and the amazing voice of the format podcast in your ears, you can do that too. Because before I start providing this video content for you, I was doing the podcast in all audio format, and that's still going to be available. You can find that on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Overcast, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Just type in the Format Podcast. We should come right up. And as I mentioned, iTunes, while you're doing that, please go on over to iTunes and rate and review, rate and review, rate and review. Give us that 5-star rating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You wouldn't believe how much that helps us. Also, if you'd like to, leave a comment. All right, leave a comment for us, okay? Let us know what you think, where I'm right, where I'm wrong, what you like, what you don't like, whatever it is. Please leave a comment because it lets me know you're listening, and I'm always looking to know that you're listening. All right. Um, so if you're on social media, you can reach out to me on Twitter because I tweet a fair amount. And the handle on Twitter is at Bruce F.A. Hope. That's at Bruce F.A. Hope. If you're on Instagram, the handle is at The Format Podcast, at The Format Podcast. And of course, you can email me at the Format Podcast at Outlook.com. The Format Podcast at Outlook.com. All right. Like I said, leave whatever comments you want to make, suggestions for topics I might have missed, where you think I'm right, where you think I'm wrong. If you think I'm the greatest guy talking sports in the world or the biggest idiot, that's cool. Because again, lets me know you're listening. All right. Now that we got all that out the way, thank you so much. Sit back, relax, and listen up to episode 91, closing in on that magical episode 100 of the format. Let's take a moment of silence for the great Hammerin' Hank Aaron, who passed away yesterday. Well, depending on when you're listening to this, but Friday, January 21st, 2021, at the age of 86. He was just an all-time great baseball player, one of the greatest there ever was, the home run king. And yeah, let's take a moment of silence. Rest in peace, Hank. All right. Now, college football. So the college football season is over, and the old saying goes, there's nothing new original under the sun. And another year, that's still the case. All right. Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama all made the playoff. Notre Dame got in too after a great regular season. And like I said, nothing new. Why is that? The Irish got handled in their last two games against big boy opponents. Now, we can say Notre Dame had the best defensive performance against Alabama since the year 2018. That's true. Yes, I said that correctly. The 31 points that Alabama scored in the semifinal was its lowest scoring output in any game since 2018. But that doesn't matter. Why? Because Notre Dame lost by double figures again. But this isn't what that's about, all right? This isn't about that. This is kind of just a general college football wrap, so I'm going to go on. But it's just kind of to my point that there's nothing new going on, right? Notre Dame to this point hasn't changed. They have narrowed the talent gap physically with the elite opponents, but when it comes to these big games, they have not been able to go ahead and get the job done and get that signature win, despite the regular season signature win they had against Clemson, who, as we all know by now, heard ad nauseum, was missing all-world former quarterback Trevor Lawrence and some key starters on defense. But anyway, um, Ohio State got to the championship game after Justin Fields put on an absolute clinic with 385 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, even after getting injured, and Trey Sermon ran wild for 193 yards in another championship. Just a side note to that, maybe Dabo should be quiet going forward about giving opponents, quality opponents, bulletin board material. But that's just me. Anyway, like most people figured, yours truly not included, Alabama rolled to another championship because I actually thought Ohio State had a really good chance of upsetting them. But at the end of the day, Crimson Tide just had too many weapons and too good an offensive scheme, all right? Nick Saban got his 7th championship and cemented his status as the greatest college football coach of all time for most people. Now, you know me, I don't always toe the party line, and to a lot of people, that makes me a contrarian, but that's okay. I prefer to call it independent thinking, all right? I think when it comes to that greatest college football coach of all time, or at least modern college football coach of all time, there is probably an argument for Urban Meyer. And that might sound crazy to a lot of you. Yes, Nick Saban has more than double the championships Urban Meyer has at 7-3. He's also coached longer and won most of his championships at one school, one at LSU, 6 at Alabama. Now, I guess depending on how you look at it, creating dominance in multiple places or sustaining dominance at one place over a long time, you know, where you value that kind of is going to affect how you look at this thing, right? So for me, Urban Meyer only has 3 championships, but he is also the only coach in history, college football history, that is, with 20-game win streaks at 3 different schools. That's going to be Utah, it's going to be Florida, it's going to be Ohio State. And that's not easy to do. And of course, there's the 2 championships at Florida and 1 at Ohio State. And realistically, if there wasn't this anti-Power 5 bias, who knows if he could have gotten one at Utah? Because if we remember, the year after Urban Meyer left Utah, moved on to Florida, the program that he built with Kyle Whittingham as head coach actually beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. But hey, let's not let facts get in the way of a good story, right? Anyway, um, regardless, Urban Meyer, he's gone now to the NFL to coach the Jags, and Saban looks like he might be able to go on in college football for another 10 years. Anyway, so that's what that is. But on another college football note, and I won't get into this stuff too much while I'm here because I'll be discussing it hopefully on a later episode of the pod. Tennessee football is in big trouble for cheating at recruiting. Yeah, go figure. um, Head coach Jeremy Pruitt got fired. Athletic director Philip Fulmer resigned because the NCAA is investigating the program. Apparently, football recruits were literally being handed McDonald's bags with cash inside. Talk about the bag man, huh? Like, we use that bag man thing as a kind of, tongue-in-cheek term, but apparently at Tennessee, there literally was a bag man, and, wow. All right. Uh, I will say with that, I'm sure there's a lot of other schools doing it, and I have some things that I heard about other schools that may be involved. Obviously, without evidence as a journalist, you can't go out there and just say stuff. So I'm going to keep those to myself for now, but we'll see if more of that comes out. All right. Um, yeah, Bagman. Wow. Anyway, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, also got hit by the NCAA for recruiting violations. Now, this one is kind of weird for me. They weren't paying anyone, but apparently they had impermissible contact with a recruit, and the coach who did that is no longer on staff. And just a brief aside, the NCAA is so weird. So, talking to a recruit at the wrong time of year is impermissible. And apparently, I think Brian Kelly took a selfie with a recruit, and that wasn't supposed to happen for whatever reason. So it's not like Notre Dame is cheating to get guys into school academically or cheating to keep guys on the field academically or paying recruits, but they're getting hit by the NCAA and have 1 year of probation. I don't know, man. The standards are crazy when you look at some of these other big time programs and you see the stuff that's going on. But hey, it'll be what it's going to be. But again, we'll hopefully be able to delve into that some more on a future episode with a college football guest and with some more information where we can really get into that further. But we'll talk about that then. So it's going to be an interesting time in college football next season, depending on what comes out of these NCAA investigations. Obviously, it's going to be an interesting time in college football, period, because that's just what college football is. But we'll see. And also, doubtful for next year, but hopeful for next year, right? As in, I hope it happens, the possibility of college football playoff expansion. But that'll be that. And we'll see you next time for more college football talk. So let's start here. I'm a journalist, not just a talking head, although to you, I probably just look like a talking head, right? But, by trade, I am a journalist. And so I tend to try and look at things through a journalistic lens. What can be proven, backing up my statements with evidence, fact checking the things that other people say, not just running with things that I hear. But more than that, when it comes to sports, I look at those through their stories. So that's how I see this weekend's AFC and NFC championship games, through their stories and even the possible Super Bowl matchups, the amazing stories. So what do I mean when I talk about the stories? Okay, I'll explain. First, let's look at the NFC championship, right? This one is easy. 12 versus 12. Obviously, the two greatest number 12s in NFL history competing in their first ever conference championship game matchup. Brady, the GOAT, looking for a shot at Super Bowl number 10. Aaron Rodgers, looking for his first Super Bowl in 10 years. Brady, looking for a chance to prove that he can win it all without Belichick, arguably the greatest head coach of all time, with whom he spent 20 years and won 6 championships and went to 9 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers, looking to prove that he is the best to do it and to vanquish the living legend along the way. Those enough storylines for you? Well, I'm not done yet. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes, they're almost mirror images of each other if you think about it. How's that? They're both big, strong, mobile, young QBs with rocket arms and quick feet. Guys who can get out of the pocket and make amazing throws on the run. Guys who are strong enough to take the hit and keep going. Guys who can pick it up on the ground if they need to. The Chiefs are trying to get to the Super Bowl and repeat as champions to really get the dynasty rolling after an incredible playoff run last season. The Bills are looking to go back to the Super Bowl 30 years after the Bills first got to a Super Bowl with what most people regard as the best team never to win it. What will Pat Mahomes look like coming off of the concussion protocol and a case of bad turf toe? Is Josh Allen ready to step into Jim Kelly's Hall of Fame shoes and lead his team back to the Super Bowl for the first time in more than a quarter of a century? All great stories. Any way you look at it, there's nothing but great storylines for all of these games. But beyond that, we really have great games to watch. All 4 teams at this point are deserving of playing in Super Bowl, right? But in sports, what does deserving matter? All that matters is who comes out on the winning side. Only two of them are going to get there. It's not about the seasons they've had or the work that they put in thus far. It's about who goes out there, plays with more energy, more heart, executes better, makes less mistakes, and wins these games on Sunday. That's what it's really about. So with that, only two of them are going to make the Super Bowl because only two of them can. And which two is it going to be? That's the interesting thing, right? Let's look at this. Call me crazy. I think the Bills upset the champs here and get back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1995. Buffalo looks like a finely oiled machine right now. That I can really say. And even though they don't have nearly as many weapons as the Chiefs, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs is a deadly combination. And I'm sure the Kansas City defense can slow that passing game down just enough. We'll see. That said, the Chiefs do have weapons everywhere, and I mean everywhere. They've got Tyreek Hill, aka Cheetah. They've got Mercole Hardman. They've got Travis Kelsey. They've got Sammy Watkins. Weapons everywhere, speed everywhere. Crazy. They've got excellent coaching and brilliant play design from Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy on the offensive side of the ball. Kansas City's a favorite, as well they should be, right? They should be the favorite. But something makes me feel like Buffalo just has the stuff to pull this upset. Not sure what that stuff exactly is. I'm just getting a feeling, having watched, right? Their defense is slightly better than the Chiefs. Pro Football Focus has the Bills defense listed as 17th in the league, the Chiefs at 20th. Not a huge difference, but it might be enough to make the difference. One place the Bills are kind of in some trouble, though, is that they're relatively one-sided on offense, and they don't run the football much. If you watch them against Baltimore, they threw it all over the place. At one point, I don't think they had a run play at all called in the entire first quarter of that game, which was interesting. I'm not sure if it was more a function of how Baltimore was playing defense or they just didn't want to run it, have ultimate confidence in Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and the rest of those guys, John Brown, etc. It's possible, but we need balance. If you're a veteran to this podcast, you know how I feel about running the football to be successful, and history proves that that's something that you need to be able to do. But this time, I'm actually going to get away from that a little bit because let's think about it. If it wasn't for the Hail Mary from Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins during the regular season, the Bills would be on a 12-game winning streak. And as it is, they've won 11 of 12 and are the hottest team left in the playoffs, right? So that means something in the playoffs, even if you're not actually the best team. We always talk about teams coming in hot, catching fire at the right time. We saw the Giants do it twice and beat the Patriots in the finals. We saw the Ravens do it in 2013 when Joe Flacco had one of the greatest historical playoff runs, arguably the second greatest statistically in NFL history. So we've seen teams get hot at the right time, come in, win these games, and end up winning a championship. It happens. And right now, Buffalo is the hottest team in the playoffs. Something to think about. All right. Let's switch over to the NFC. I'm going with Tampa Bay close in this one. Not calling a score, but just going with them to win this game close. If I've learned anything over the years watching pro football, I guess it's just that I can't pick against the GOAT. I'm not saying Tom Brady's never lost, not saying he can't lose. I'm saying if given the choice, I'm not picking against him. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Tom Brady's going to have to win this game if he wants to lead the first home team ever to the Super Bowl, right? Because we know that the Super Bowl this year is in Tampa Bay, and if the Buccaneers get there, they will be the first team ever in the Super Bowl to host it, and that would be something, wouldn't it? But here's the problem. Brady isn't playing against Drew Brees again this week. Aaron Rodgers is standing in his way. He's got 412 career touchdowns and only 86 interceptions. That is by far the best touchdown interception ratio in NFL history. It's over 4.5 to 1. That's insane. And the fact is, Aaron Rodgers isn't just going to give you the ball 4 times in the same game like Drew Brees and the Saints offense did. You're barely getting that in one season from Aaron Rodgers. Most seasons he's going to have, single digit interceptions. So you can't expect to feast off of that and have all those short fields like you did against the Saints. It's not going to happen that way. But Brady isn't exactly a turnover machine either. This is a guy who hasn't thrown an interception on the road in his last 386 passing attempts, which, if you want to talk about historical greatness, is the longest streak in NFL history. Brady doesn't make mistakes where it counts most generally. He doesn't make mistakes where it counts most. So the Bucs aren't going to get the help from the Packers that they got from the Saints last week. They're just not. And then here's another factor you got to look at. Where's this game happening? Lambeau, the frozen tundra, as the Schwam likes to say. Tom Brady is probably the best cold weather quarterback in NFL history, so it's not going to bother him. But the question now is, can he bring his guys along with him to perform in that cold? Because there's no amount of preparing that he can do. Most of his teammates are young guys. A lot of them haven't seen the playoffs or had playoff success, and many of them are from the South, grew up in the South, now playing Tampa Bay, and they're not familiar with that cold, right? Like, obviously, we know Brady, 20 years in New England, he can deal with cold, he can deal with the snow, so be it. That's not something he's concerned about. But for his guys, his teammates, a lot of them, you got to wonder how they're going to be able to operate in those conditions. There's no amount of him telling them, there's no real way to prepare for that when you get out there and you have to deal with it. Also, you got to wonder, how prepared can they be for what, for most of them, is going to be the biggest game of their lives? You got to wonder, how is Brady going to approach that? Is Brady going to tell him, you know, is he going to try to downplay the magnitude of the game and tell him, hey, just execute one play at a time, one play at a time, one drive at a time, one quarter at a time, one half at a time, one game at a time? Is he going to try to boil it down and make it simple? Or is he going to impress on them just how big this game is, how important it is, and that they need to play the game of their lives? And then if they win, they're going to have to go out there and play the game of their lives again to get that championship feeling. Who knows? I mean, I would be interested to know how, as a leader and obviously the winningest player in NFL history, he's going to be able to kind of convey that message, how he's going to go about it. I'm sure he's going to know the right buttons to push. The question is, are his teammates, who've never been in this situation for the most part, going to be able to respond and come with him? I'm not worried about Brady. I'm worried about everyone else. So this is going to be really interesting. So now let's talk a little bit about other factors in this game, right? So I think Brady can bring his guys along with him. I think he will. How far that goes, we'll see. Now, he may not get the turnovers from Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense, but Todd Bowles is one of the best defensive coordinators in the game, right? He gave the Packers offense fits in their first game earlier this season in Tampa Bay. Now, of course, we know Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers are poured over that tape. Aaron Rodgers is going to correct his mistakes. He's not going to, he's not going to throw the ball to him multiple times again like he did that game. And it's going to be interesting because Todd Bowles is not going to be able to fool those guys with the same tricks. But I'm pretty sure, as a veteran defensive coordinator, he's going to have some new wrinkles because Green Bay is going to be prepared. As I record this, they're probably in the film room right now still studying, right? One of the other things is, and I think this is interesting, now we kind of get back to one of my standard philosophies: run the ball, stop the run. But let's look at the first part of that: run the ball. We see that the Bucs now have the running game cranked back up with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. They may not be running for 200 yards a game, but the running game is better than serviceable. They're able to pick up, quality yards on the ground and give Brady good situations where he's ahead of the chains. This is not a situation where I don't think Brady is going to have to throw it, 35, 45 times to try and win this game. If he does, he may or may not be capable of that, but I don't think that is the best formula to win this game if you're the Buccaneers. Balance is going to help. Obviously, Green Bay is an explosive offense, so you want to do what you can to try to keep them off the field also, and being able to run the ball, that's obviously a good thing when you're playing against a team like that. So the Bucks are clearly more balanced on offense. This is just going to be one hell of a matchup. That's all there is to it. One hell of a matchup. Okay, so to reiterate, I've got two upsets this weekend, if you want to call them upsets, because I think both lines are fairly close. I've got the Bills over the Chiefs, and I've got the Bucks over the Packers. And hey, I could be wrong, but that's what I've got. And it goes down. If it goes down like that, if it goes down like that, I gotta say, and we'll talk about this more leading up to it. But if it goes down like that, and it's a Super Bowl 55, excuse me, being Bills and the Bucks, then hey, I'm sorry for you again, Bills Mafia. You're still not going to get over that hump, and you're going to be 0-5 all time in Super Bowls, because if you get there, Brady is not going to be denied, especially not in his home stadium and not on the biggest stage where he's more comfortable than anyone who ever played. All right. So that's it for episode 91 of the Format Podcast. Thanks so much for listening to this shortened episode. And we will be back next week with more content for you. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe. Have a good one.